Tilly was born in a remote little town in the dry, isolated South. Her mother, Molly, gave birth to her outside of marriage and never revealed who Tilly's father really was. Because of that, the townspeople treated them like outcasts. The children mocked Tilly for having no father, while the adults spread cruel rumors that she and her mother were cursed. Anyone who got close to them was believed to be destined for bad luck. When Tilly was 10 years old, a tragedy changed her life forever. The mayor's son, a boy her age, died in an accident. His neck was broken, and Tilly was the only one found at the scene. Traumatized by what happened, she lost her memory of the incident and could not defend herself. But the town had already made up its mind. To them, Tilly was a killer. Under the mayor's orders, Sheriff Farrat drove Tilly out of town and sent her to a boarding school in the city, leaving her to survive on her own. 25 years later, Tilly, now 35, has become a rising star in the world of haute couture. With the sewing skills her mother taught her, and an incredible eye for style, she has built a place for herself in the fashion world. But all that glamour still cannot erase the wounds of her childhood. Now, Tilly returns to the town she both hates and longs for, determined to clear her name and uncover the truth. The town has barely changed. It is still backward, dry, and lifeless, with dust drifting over the dead-looking ground. When Tilly finally reunites with her mother, she is devastated by what Molly has become. Her spirit is fragile, worn down by years of loneliness and cruelty. The only thing that has kept her alive is the small help of a few kind people. Tilly's return immediately sends panic through the entire town. The people who once tormented her are now afraid she has come back for revenge. But Tilly does nothing. She stays quiet, settles in, and takes care of her mother while waiting for the right moment. This is the dressmaker. One day, the town held a rugby match against a neighboring village. Tilly appeared in a stunning red dress, with flawless makeup and a presence that drew every eye to her like a movie star. She sat casually just behind her hometown team's attacking line and instantly became the biggest distraction on the field. The players could not stop looking at her, losing their focus as the opposing team quickly took advantage and began to gain the upper hand. During the break, the team captain, Teddy, politely asked Tilly to move to the other side of the field so the players could focus on the game instead of being distracted. Teddy's family had always treated Tilly and her mother with kindness, even helping care for Molly after Tilly was driven out of town. As a gesture of gratitude, Tilly agreed. She went home briefly, then returned wearing a strapless black dress that was even more captivating. This time, she sat behind the opposing team's attacking line. The effect was immediate. The opposing players lost their concentration, unable to take their eyes off her. Mistakes started piling up, and Tilly's hometown team turned the game around, winning in spectacular fashion. After the match, Tilly met Gertrude, an old friend. Gertrude was in love with a wealthy man in town, but her plain appearance had always kept her stuck as just a friend. Never anything more. Full of hope, she asked Tilly to create a stunning dress for her and teach her how to present herself, so she could stand out at the victory party in 2 days and finally win his heart. Tilly did not agree right away. She gave Gertrude a condition: either pay a high price or tell the truth about what happened on the day Stuart died. Gertrude hesitated, then finally admitted a painful truth. She was the one who told Stuart where Tilly had been hiding. She had been afraid of becoming the next target of bullying and did not want to take Tilly's place. However, she never saw what happened after that and had no direct knowledge of how the boy died. Even though she was disappointed, Tilly kept her word. She designed an extraordinary dress and completely transformed Gertrude's appearance.
There's a story in our town of the prettiest girl.
Who is that?
2 days later, Gertrude arrived at the party looking like a completely different person. The man she loved was instantly captivated, and it did not take long before they became engaged. From that moment on, Tilly suddenly became the town's new fashion icon. Women flocked to her house, asking for style advice and ordering custom dresses. The once dull village began to feel like a runway in the middle of the countryside. Even Sheriff Farrat could not resist. One night, he came to her, nervous and carrying a secret. For years, he had secretly enjoyed dressing in women's clothing, but had hidden it out of fear of judgment. To his surprise, Tilly did not laugh at him. Instead, she made several outfits just for him, and from there, their relationship slowly grew closer. In the end, Farrat confessed everything. He apologized for driving Tilly out of town all those years ago and admitted that he had only done it because the mayor had threatened him. At the same time, love began to grow in Tilly's life. Teddy, the charming rugby captain, had fallen for her and was not afraid to show it. Over time, the townspeople slowly began to accept Tilly's presence again. Her relationship with Teddy continued to grow, bringing a warmth that made the town feel almost like a fairy tale. But not everyone was happy about it. The mayor started to feel threatened. Seeing how easily Tilly won people over made him increasingly uneasy. As a calculated move, he brought in a middle-aged dressmaker named Una to draw attention away from Tilly. The women of the town, easily influenced, quickly flocked to Una's shop as if she were the latest trend. Even Gertrude, who was preparing for her wedding, turned away from Tilly and asked Una to make her wedding dress. However, the wealthy man's mother did not approve of her son's relationship with Gertrude. Behind the scenes, she paid Una to create the worst possible wedding dress. When Gertrude tried it on, she was on the verge of tears. With no other option, she ran straight to Tilly's house. Not long after, her fiancé arrived and saw Gertrude wearing a stunning new dress designed by Tilly. One glance was enough to make him fall even deeper in love. The wedding was back on track. That failure marked the end of Una's brief rise. The women of the town abandoned her just as quickly as they had embraced her. The mayor tried to comfort her, but their relationship took a different turn and became an affair, which was eventually exposed by the mayor's wife. Strangely, the mayor's wife did not cause a scene. Instead, she quietly went to see Tilly. The woman who had long believed Tilly was responsible for her son's death now asked for her help in creating a remarkable dress. Her goal was simple. She wanted to attend Gertrude's wedding and win back her husband's attention. Tilly was surprised. Out of everyone in town, this was the last person she expected to come to her. The mayor's wife explained that she had always believed her son died after falling from a tree. Her husband had never mentioned Tilly's name at all. On top of that, her obsessive tendencies and anxiety had kept her isolated, so she had never truly heard the rumors spreading through the town. She also revealed that the only witness her husband had ever mentioned was Tilly's former teacher, Miss Beulah. Determined to clear her name once and for all, Tilly began digging into the past. She bribed Sheriff Ferret with a beautiful fur shawl in exchange for access to Beulah's original report. But what she found left her stunned. The statement claimed that Tilly had provoked the mayor's son and pushed him off the water tower, causing his death. Tilly froze. She had no memory of anything like that. All she could remember was how afraid she had been of the mayor's son, always trying to avoid him. It made no sense to her that she would suddenly pick a fight. Filled with anger, Tilly went straight to confront Beulah. The old woman could not withstand the pressure and finally broke. She admitted everything. On that day, she had seen the entire incident from her office window. She saw the mayor's son cornering Tilly again, trying to bully her. But out of fear of angering the mayor, Beulah chose to close the curtains and pretend she had seen nothing. Moments later, the tragedy happened. Since it took place right behind the school, she feared she would be blamed for not stepping in. So she made Tilly the scapegoat. Hearing the truth, Tilly released all the anger she had been holding onto for years. She confronted Beulah on the spot, unable to hold anything back. That same day happened to be Gertrude's wedding. Tilly rushed to the venue and immediately reported the lie to Sheriff Ferret. But to her surprise, Ferret was not shocked. He admitted that he had long suspected Beulah was lying. The problem was, at the time, the mayor had insisted on driving Tilly out, and Ferret had no power to oppose him. Tilly's anger flared up again. She demanded to know what gave the mayor the right to banish her from the town. Ferret lowered his head and finally revealed the truth that had been hidden for years. The mayor never had any real authority to do that. He had only one reason, because he was Tilly's father. Tilly stood there in silence, her world collapsing in an instant. Before she could even process it, chaos broke out. The mayor's wife arrived at the wedding in an emotional state, once again accusing Tilly of being a murderer.
I didn't do it.
It turned out, Beulah had also come and quietly twisted the story again, planting the old accusation back into her mind. The mayor's wife lost control, throwing accusations without stopping, while the mayor stood behind her, backing everything up. Teddy could not stay silent any longer. He stepped in and pushed the mayor aside. In the middle of the chaos, Tilly chose to leave and ran away from the scene. As Tilly ran, Teddy's younger sibling, who had developmental challenges, stood still and kept repeating the same words over and over. They insisted that Tilly had only been avoiding, not attacking.
I saw him! I saw him! He done it himself! I saw! You murdered! Shut up, no!
That simple statement suddenly made everything clear to Teddy. He finally understood what had really happened. Teddy chased after Tilly and brought her back to the place where it had all happened. There, he tried to remind her of something from the past. Back then, the mayor's son had a strange and dangerous habit. He would pretend to be a bull, charging headfirst into other children's stomachs as if it were some kind of game. His friends would even hold the victim in place so they could not escape. Teddy then guided Tilly to recall the possibility that something like that had happened on that day. In an instant, the memories that had been buried for years began to surface. That day, after Gertrude left, Tilly climbed down from the water tower to find another place to hide. But the mayor's son found her first. He cornered her, forcing her to stand against a wall, then charged at her like a bull. This time, no one was there to hold her in place. Acting on instinct, she stepped aside. The boy slammed straight into the concrete wall behind her. His neck snapped, and he died instantly.
Silo. Stuart hit the wall full pelt and broke his own stupid neck.
The entire incident had actually been witnessed from a distance by Teddy's younger sibling through a toy telescope. They could never explain it clearly, but the words they had been repeating all along turned out to be the truth. At last, the burden that had haunted Tilly for years was lifted. She was not a killer and never had been. Free from the guilt that had followed her for so long, she looked at Teddy with a mix of relief and emotion. For the first time, she truly let herself open up. That night, they spent time together, finally allowing themselves a moment of peace. Later that same night, Tilly and Teddy climbed to the top of the town's old grain silo. It was a place once used to store harvests and also a secret spot where Teddy and his friends used to watch the stars. Under the night sky, Teddy revealed his desire to marry Tilly. He wanted to show the entire town that they loved each other without shame. He also asked her to leave the town with him, to take Molly and start a new life free from judgment and lies. But Tilly could not answer right away. Deep inside, there was still doubt, shaped by a lifetime of being labeled as a bringer of misfortune. Teddy saw that hesitation. To prove that Tilly was not cursed, he made a reckless decision. He planned to jump into the silo just like he used to do when it was filled with soft grain and safe to land on. Tilly tried to stop him, but everything happened too quickly. Teddy had already opened the lid and jumped.
Please, Teddy, don't. No, look, Teddy, no, Teddy.
What he did not realize was that the conditions inside had changed. The soft grain was gone, replaced by loose sorghum that was unstable and dangerous. By the time Tilly understood something was wrong and tried to call for help, it was too late. Teddy lost his life, suffocated before anyone could save him. At Teddy's funeral, his family did not blame Tilly at all. After the ceremony, they chose to leave the town forever. But the townspeople revealed their true nature once again. They turned Tilly into a target, calling her a curse, a woman who brought death wherever she went. Tilly locked herself in her room and cried for days. Then something unexpected happened. Molly, her mother, who had long been seen as unstable and strange, suddenly became clear and aware. All those years, her behavior had been an act. It was the only way she knew how to survive in a town that treated her daughter like a disease. One day, while out shopping, Molly overheard a group of women laughing and gossiping about Tilly, even as they proudly wore the beautiful dresses Tilly had made for them. That moment became the breaking point for her patience. Molly walked straight up to them and defended her daughter. She made it clear that Teddy's death was not a curse, but the result of him trying to prove his love. After that, Molly returned home and finally revealed a truth she had kept hidden for decades. She explained that the mayor was not just a bitter old man. He was Tilly's father. Long ago, when they were still poor, he and Molly had been in love. But as his ambition grew, he left Molly while she was pregnant and chose to marry the mayor's daughter instead, all for the sake of power. He sacrificed everything for his position. Molly also admitted that sending Tilly away back then had been her way of giving her a chance at a better life. She wanted her daughter to see the world and become someone stronger. Now she urged Tilly to stop living in sorrow and not let the hatred of others destroy her life. It was what Teddy would have wanted too. Encouraged by her mother's words, Tilly finally decided to leave the town with Molly and start over. But just as they were preparing to go, the same women who had once slandered her showed up at her house. The town's annual opera festival was approaching, and they needed beautiful costumes to compete with the neighboring town. Without any shame, they asked Tilly to make them, even setting a condition that they would only accept her if they won. Tilly drove them away without hesitation. But Molly, always clever, had already begun planning her response. The next day, Molly took a letter and went to visit the hunchback doctor's wife. For years, the town's postal service had refused to help Tilly and Molly because they were outcasts, so this woman was one of the very few, aside from Teddy's family, who had ever been willing to help them. Molly asked her to deliver the letter to the neighboring town. As a gesture of thanks, she brought a cake that had been mixed with cannabis. The cannabis could ease her pain, and Molly hoped the cake would at least bring her some comfort. Grateful, the woman accepted it and agreed to deliver the letter. But on her way home, tragedy struck. Molly suddenly suffered a heart attack and collapsed. When Tilly found her lying lifeless, she ran to ask the hunchback doctor for help. But the doctor, who had always looked down on Molly, coldly refused and left her without assistance. Molly passed away, and Tilly, who had just begun to find strength again, was thrown back into grief. Then fate twisted in a cruel way. Just one day later, the doctor himself met his end. He had a rare condition that made him unable to control his movements. Whenever he walked, someone had to stand in front of him to stop him. That afternoon, after eating the cannabis-laced cake, the doctor's wife became too disoriented to stop him in time. The doctor walked out of the house, stumbled into the pond in front of it, and drowned on the spot. When the townspeople discovered the leftover cake, they immediately blamed Tilly. She was accused of poisoning both the doctor and his wife. The crowd stormed the police station, demanding her arrest. In that critical moment, Sheriff Ferret stepped forward and claimed the cake had been his doing. He took full responsibility and was taken away by the police. Over the next few days, Tilly carefully crafted beautiful costumes for the neighboring town's team preparing for the opera competition. It turned out the letter Molly had arranged to send before her death was a request for that town to replicate the costume designs of this town ahead of time. At the same time, Tilly quietly approached the mayor's wife and revealed a shocking truth. She told her that the mayor was her biological father. For years, the mayor had been secretly mixing something into his wife's food, worsening her obsessive tendencies and anxiety until she became too afraid to leave the house. Trapped in her own mind, the mayor's wife finally unleashed all the anger she had been holding in. That night, she attacked her husband and caused his death.
You're a monster!
A few days later, the opera festival finally took place. The neighboring town's team, dressed in Tilly's stunning designs, immediately captured the judges' attention and earned their praise. Meanwhile, the home team led by Gertrude appeared in poorly made Baroque-style costumes. Without Tilly's touch, their performance fell flat, and they lost without a fight. While the competition was unfolding, Tilly was preparing the final step of her plan. Calm and in control, she put on her hat, tossed the fabric onto the table, and used Teddy's lighter to ignite a flame. The fire spread quickly, consuming the entire town. When the townspeople returned from the festival, humiliated by their defeat, all that remained were charred ruins of the place they once called home. The elegance and appearances they had once taken pride in could no longer hide the rot that had always been there. A town built on hatred, lies, and buried secrets was finally reduced to ashes. And in the end, Tilly freed herself from all of it. She completed her revenge, found her own sense of closure, and walked away toward a new life. So the moral of the story is, if a whole town treats you like garbage, maybe don't come back with fashion skills, come back with a lighter and a revenge checklist.